Hello, I'm Rich PPMtv, host of So Much for Seniors. A great program is coming up for you today. We'll be discussing how to be aware and protect yourself from fraud and scams. We'll also hear about a wonderful community volunteer home repair service, and we'll talk with an energetic woman who celebrated her milestone birthday in a unique way. As always, you don't want to miss our trip to the Senior Activity Center to learn what's on this event's calendar. So let's get started. For our In Focus interview today, we have Kevin Moquin from the New Hampshire Bureau of Securities Regulation of the Secretary of State's office. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, Rich. How are you?
Good. So, Kevin, tell us, your office, in the Secretary of State's office, deals with pretty much securities fraud. Can you explain that to us, and particularly how we can alert seniors in terms of looking out for potential fraudulent activities?
Okay, well, basically our office is charged with protecting investors in New Hampshire. And we do that several ways, through licensing, through examinations. So we have our own process of keeping an eye on the professionals who handle investments. But we do unfortunately see a lot of problems, a lot of fraud in New Hampshire. And there is a lot that is targeting seniors in New Hampshire. So what we really advocate, we do a lot of outreach, and we really advocate for people to be aware, to educate themselves, to reach out to us. We're a good resource for information, and that can be a big part of protecting yourself, is knowing that we're here.
What, when a senior gets a phone call, or anybody gets a phone call, that may be, the caller ID shows some kind of a strange telephone number, but somebody's trying to sell them something. What would be some of the warning signs that people would look for that this might not be quite an up-and-up situation?
Well, I mean, there are various things. A lot of times what we see are people are being pushed to invest now, that this is your opportunity. You've got to do it now. We also, we particularly see that with a particular scheme called the pump and dump scheme. And we see that not only through telephone calls, we see it through internet solicitations. And what a pump and dump scheme is, very basically, is that you have a fraudster who has purchased a large amount of a very thinly traded cheap stock, penny stock. And what they do then is they promote this to other people, that this is a good investment, you ought to jump in, you ought to buy now, now's your opportunity. And people who do buy, end up pushing the price of the stock up, and then this is where the dump part comes in. The fraudster then gets rid of his investment, leaving the investors holding the bag. So a lot of times, we do see that type of thing, particularly, as I said, with internet investment. But in telephone solicitations, that sort of thing, one thing that we find is that the older generation, they're not inclined to be quite so abrupt, maybe, or as impolite as other people. And sometimes you gotta practice that. You've got to hang up the phone when someone you don't know is trying to sell you something that you're not interested in. Because one of the things that happens is that the longer they keep you on, the more information they get from you. And so you want to end that conversation as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so when, these fraudsters are out there targeting, New Hampshire is an older state, a lot of retirees here, and fairly, economically well situated. We have a high per capita income. So is New Hampshire targeted particularly by these fraudsters? New
Hampshire is definitely targeted both by the legitimate and illegitimate people seeking to have people invest. So for instance, now New Hampshire, we have 105,000 brokers registered in New Hampshire. For a small state, that's quite an amount. Because there is a lot of money here, there is an older population, and so very attractive. But unfortunately, it's also very attractive for fraudsters. We are definitely seeing people who are getting hit up in the various ways by telephone, internet, even old-fashioned mail. Some of the stuff we see that's troubling is not necessarily completely fraudulent, but we see marketing techniques that might not be completely transparent. So for instance, many of the people viewing this may get in the mail these offers for free lunch or dinner seminars. You always want to be careful. It's not to say it's necessarily illegitimate, but it may be selling products that it's in the interest of the seller, who might make very good commissions off what he's selling, or she's selling, rather than in the interest of the person investing.
Yeah. Now, New Hampshire, a few years ago, we unfortunately had a pretty large investor fraud operation. I guess you'd call it a Ponzi scheme, that a lot of investors lost a substantial amount of money, and the legislature got involved, and the Attorney General's office. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I believe you're talking about the FRM case, and that was somewhat unique because these were actually loans, mortgages, and what happened was the investors in that case were actually getting mortgages on properties. It's been very controversial. The investors, the people who were victims, are very upset over what happened. They thought they were protected because they had mortgages. But in general, in terms of protecting against fraud generally, it really is a matter of, as I mentioned, don't fall for the hard sell. They're going to work on greed and fear. And fear can be a big thing, particularly with the older population. The thing they will impress upon people is, do you have enough money to last through your retirement? Are you going to outlive your retirement money? So they sell that, and that can be, that can raise a lot of anxiety for people. So they hit that, and they really just keep pressing until they get what they want from you. So you really have to be aware. You have to check into things is really the biggest thing. You can reach the Bureau of Securities at 603-271-1463. And we'll be glad to check on anyone who is selling an investment. We'll be glad to check on the investments. A lot of people don't know we're there, and we can provide that service. Another way people can check on their own is through a service on the internet called brokercheck.org, brokercheck.org. And people can check out their investment professionals, make sure they're licensed. They can see if they've got complaints, any actions against them, either criminal or administrative. And they can really, get the background on people and make sure that they're comfortable with the people they're working with.
Yeah, so even for what looks like a very obviously legitimate, it's always, would you say, a good idea to check with your office, make sure everybody is licensed and has a good reputation and has no negative history in terms of your office?
Right. You're going to learn either that the person you're working with has a good background and they're appropriately licensed, or maybe there's some issues in the background that might concern you, or you might find out that they're not licensed at all and they're trying to sell you some kind of investment. And then that's a big red flag, obviously. And if you need referrals to other state agencies, we can certainly help you with that. So we're there to protect investors.
So the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true, and you may want to check with you folks before signing on any dotted lines or making any agreements.
Yeah, I mean, that's another warning sign. And sometimes it's not extravagantly too good to be true, but you might have somebody who's selling an investment that has an annual return of maybe 12%. Pretty good in this climate, this economic climate right now. But maybe, you might think to yourself, well, it's not that far-fetched. Even those, you got to check. And it's good to have people around you can check with, whether you have another investment professional or whether you have family and friends that you can say, how does this sound to you?
That's great. Kevin, this is great information for our viewers, and I really appreciate you coming down from Concord on this beautiful day.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Now let's go out to the Senior Activities Center to hear highlights and happenings from Bryn Shute, the Senior Services Supervisor.
We're here today at the Senior Activities Center at Community Campus. You all are welcome to come here anytime. A few of the things I'd like to highlight for you are the Friday Cafe, which takes place every Friday from 9:30 to 11:30. We have snacks, coffee, conversation, and jokes. We then follow the cafe with movies at 11:45, which some of the great movies we show coming up are Guardians of the Galaxy or Born to be Wild, which is about orangutans. Everyone loves orangutans. You can't help but want to watch a movie about orangutans. So come on down and watch movies with us. I make popcorn and it's very delicious. We also have a one-year annual celebration coming up. You might not know, but we have been here for 1 year, and we're going to celebrate with hot dogs and hamburgers on July 23rd here at the community center, and we're going to have an outdoor cookout. We're going to eat inside, have fruit, all sorts of yummy stuff, and you're invited. Lunch takes place at noon, but please do come early and enjoy the company of others. I would like to introduce to you one of the workers here at the Senior Center. Her name is Sharon, and she spends her time Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays here at the center. So let's introduce Sharon. Come on over. Hi, Sharon. Sharon Rhodes works here, and when you come in, she will greet you. She can show you around if you're new. If not, she'll get you to the coffee and get to know you. Sharon, what's your favorite thing here at the center?
I'd be hard-pressed to pick a favorite, but high on my list would be the line dancing class. Very, very lively, and they put on a show once a month, and kids come in from the classes in this building to watch them. I also, close second would be the art class on Wednesdays from 12 to 1. That's a great class. Everybody does a project. They don't have to bring anything. It's free. And probably the lunch bunch group, which is my group.
Oh, yeah.
That's a personal favorite. That's my personal favorite. We go out to lunch once a month. Great group of people. We all drive to the place. We just went to the Lobster Boat in Exeter. It was great. Everything's my favorite, but those are my top picks. And at the lunch bunch, I'll sing you happy birthday if it's your birthday.
Oh, yes. And on Wednesday, July 8th at 11:30 at the Great Buffet in Newington is the next lunch bunch, and you are invited. We love to have food together and share conversations and get together in social times. So the luncheon, the senior luncheons, which take place on the fourth Thursday of the month or the second Tuesday of the month. Then we have the lunch bunch on the second Wednesday. The next one is Wednesday, July 8th. We'd love to have you. For more information or for a more current copy of the newsletter, give us a call here at the center, 610-4433, or better yet, just stop by.
Extended Family is proud to be a supporting sponsor of So Much for Seniors and the Senior Salute segment.
For our Senior Salute today, we want you to meet a very energetic woman, Kathy Lewis. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rich. Nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me to be up here.
Oh, this is great. Kathy, this is obviously our Senior Salute segment where we talk about a senior who's done great things in the community and has done, wonderful things to show how viable and vital senior citizens are. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're a board member here on PPMtv. You're involved with archaeological events and all kinds of things. Give us a little background.
Well, my affiliation with PPMtv started before we even moved here. We've lived in Portsmouth just about 3 years. And one of the founding members of the station and a past president, Dave Underhill, is an old friend of ours from when we all lived in Vermont and our children went to school together. And he had asked me, knowing we were moving here, if I would be interested in helping out with some of the office work because A, there was no office, and B, there was nobody working in it. And so I did that, and my volunteer role sort of grew a little bit, and eventually I was asked to sit on the board, which I'm doing now, and I'm now secretary on the board.
That's great.
And the archaeological thing is, I was an anthropology major in college, but because I had to work every summer to earn money to pay for my education, I never did any field work. So since 2008, I volunteer with the State Conservation and Rescue Archaeology Program, and we do field schools. There's lab work to be done on the off season, and I go over and wash rocks and flakes from Paleo-Indian tool making, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things to be done once you're not working full time.
Yeah, there's no shortage of things to keep you busy.
Absolutely not.
So were you involved in any of the interesting archaeological things that took place here in Portsmouth at all?
No, no, I started in 2008, and the focus of the work that I've been involved in has been Paleo-Indian sites, especially up in the northern corridor across Route 2, what's now Route 2, because that was a travel route. And we have found evidence of stone flakes of material that is not indigenous to New Hampshire. It came from Maine, which tells you somebody brought it here or somebody traded it.
Oh,
But somehow it got here.
Oh, that's interesting. So the migration of different
Yes.
Native American populations throughout. So you told us you had a bucket list, and most of us probably, as we get into those magical years, we have this bucket list of things we want to do before we can't do them anymore. So tell us a little bit about your bucket list and how you got to the Medicare Challenge.
Well, the Medicare Challenge was not my idea. It was the idea of a very dear friend. We have vacation homes up in the Lakes region in a shared access community on Lake Winnipesaukee. And my friend Sue O'Brien is always up for a challenge. And she was the one who came to me and said, because our 65th birthdays were coming up within a few weeks of each other, that we needed to do something special to mark our 65th birthdays, along which you get your Medicare card. And so we were out talking on the phone, and I asked her, well, what did you have in mind? And she said, I think we should climb Mount Washington. And there is dead silence from my end. And a long pause, and to which I said, well, if we can include a visit to the Mount Washington Hotel Spa when we're done, then I'm in. And that's how it got started, was that we were going to do this. We picked a date in July, and it was 6 of us who did this together, ourselves, our husbands, and another couple from Far Echo Harbor, where we have these vacation cottages. And he is a career National Guardsman, and he's an EMT. So we brought along our own medical support, in addition to training for the climb. And the training consisted mostly of walking, a lot of walking, and then walking with backpacks on. And then Joe Dineo, who was our leader, he's been up Mount Washington at least 30 times, and our guide for the trip, and our medical support. He gave us a list of equipment we needed to bring, food we needed to bring, water we needed to bring, and we basically took everything he had to say to heart, because Mount Washington is an unforgiving mountain, and you have to respect it and you have to climb it properly.
Did you have any surprises, or any time along the way you decided, maybe I'm going to turn back and not do this?
No. Joe was wearing a watch that could tell altitude, and so he was checking, the altitude as we would climb, and it's like the child whining, how many more miles? Like, how high are we? We did stop at the Lakes of the Clouds AMC hut for the night. We did not summit in one day. Okay. We took our time. We enjoyed the view. We took a lot of pictures. We took along one of the PPMtv handheld video cameras. And so, as you know, I've passed along to you some of the video clips from the climb. And we had a wonderful dinner at the Lakes of the Clouds AMC hut. They have students who are naturalists, and they take you around and give you the history of the site. And there's no electricity other than in the dining room. There is no hot water, and you are in bunks, floor to ceiling. But at the end of the day, and at the end of that piece of the climb, you are so tired, it's heaven.
So I couldn't think of a better way to spend the 65th birthday, and so we only have about 30 seconds left, but what's left in your bucket?
Travel to other parts of the world. When you're raising children, and now they're launched, and then the next thing that people in our age bracket are sometimes dealing with are elderly parents. Our parents have passed on, and so now it's time to look at seeing the world that we haven't had a chance to see yet. And we're looking forward to doing that.
Any one place in particular that you have and say, I have to go to that one spot?
I would like to go to Italy, and we have plans to do that next year.
Well, I can highly recommend that. From one who's been there many times, I can recommend that. That's been on my bucket list, but it never comes out of my bucket.
Well, this one's already in place, so we're ready to we're going to be doing Rome to Venice.
Well, great.
So thank you.
Kathy, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Good
much.
luck in emptying your bucket list, and take your time.
Thank you.
Extended Family is proud to be a supporting sponsor of So Much for Seniors and the Senior Salute segment. The Good to Know segment of So Much for Seniors is proudly sponsored by the Mark Wentworth Home.
We'd like to introduce Cheryl Van Allen, the Executive Director of the Community Toolbox. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. What a great opportunity.
This is great. So tell me, the Community Toolbox, give us the 30-second introduction into what that is.
Fantastic. The Community Toolbox is essentially a fix-it program. We use volunteer labor to help people who own their own homes do small but critical repairs that they can't afford. The cost of contractors are so high, and sometimes folks, whether they're living on limited income or fixed income, they just can't afford to keep their homes safe and healthy. We were founded based on the belief that neighbors should help neighbors, so we use volunteers, and that it takes a village. And we're really just trying to pull the community together to help those who can't help themselves.
Now, this is for people who actually own their own home.
Yes.
It's not for rental apartments or anything. So, and what are the economic criteria for people to participate in this program?
It's a great question. The technical term is we work within 200% of the federal poverty guideline. Most people don't know what that number is, and it changes from year to year. But what they need to know is that if they are receiving some sort of assistance, whether it's Medicaid, welfare, electrical or fuel assistance, then they likely qualify. We don't take the client's information directly. We go through referrals, so we work with other service agencies in the area, like community action partnerships, the local welfare offices, visiting nurses. They help us find the folks that fall within our guidelines because they come in contact with them every day. So rather than us do all of the work that they're already doing, we don't recreate the wheel. So we're using them as our feet on the street.
So say a family or a couple bought a house 50 years ago in Portsmouth, and it's an old house, but it's still in Portsmouth, and it's all paid for, and they live on a pretty fixed income. Now, the value of their home is not used against them in terms of the criteria for being able to participate in this program?
No, we are not asset-based. We are only income-based at this time. So, the value of the house is actually, it's not used against them. In fact, we want people to age in place. There are lots of studies that are done, what the draw on government services and things like that if people are living in rentals or outside of their own home. We want people to feel like they can stay where they are. There's a sense of pride and ownership there, and just because they can't afford to fix their rotting window or their door doesn't mean they should live in an unsafe way, and we're trying to keep them safe and healthy.
Yeah, and they're in their own home. They're out, not in a nursing home and not in a facility like that.
Absolutely.
So tell us, how do you get volunteers, and what kinds of people do you look for volunteers to help you?
It's a great question as well. So we have folks that help me in the office, but what we're looking for specifically right now is skilled volunteers who, maybe electricians or plumbers, or even just folks who are really good at the DIY. They do their own fix-it at home, and they have the availability. We run on time and money. So their time helps us help others. They come in and they will assess the job. They will go out and help us price out the job, and then go and do the work. We send them out in teams of 2 typically, unless the job's really big. But yeah, those are the kinds of folks we're looking for, people who like to bang a hammer, and the jobs are always critical, so it's not, we don't do painting of walls or anything like that. It's always something that has to do with safety or
not just
accessibility.
cosmetic.
Exactly, no aesthetic work. If someone accidentally or had an injury of some sort and now they need a wheelchair ramp and can't afford it, we do that kind of work.
How can any clients or any potential volunteers reach you and find out how they can participate?
They can give us a call at the office. It's 603-294-0479, or they can find us on our website. It's comtoolbox.org. Even though we don't take the folks directly. We don't take applications. I'm happy to walk people through the process. We have volunteers in the office every day that are happy to walk them through the process and send them in the right direction so that we can get them the help that they need.
Yeah, this is wonderful. And I know you do get some financial assistance from other charities in the neighborhood and the community.
Absolutely. We ask that our clients pay for the materials, but sometimes they can't even afford the small cost of that. We've worked with Women Aid, local Women Aid. We've gotten grants from the Portsmouth Rotary, Greenland Women's Club, and just recently from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. So we are able to, if someone really truly cannot afford the cost of the materials, we now have the funds in hand that we can say, okay, we can cover that for you.
Great. This is a wonderful bit of information for us, and I think the viewers will certainly take advantage of it. Thank you so much for doing it, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The Good to Know segment of So Much for Seniors is proudly sponsored by the Mark Wentworth Home.
I hope you all enjoyed our program today, and please check our website, www.somuchforseniors.com, for the days and times the show is aired. Remember, your comments and feedback are always welcome, so please let us know what you think. Goodbye for now, and don't forget to join us for our next episode and tell your friends about So Much for Seniors.